Hey everybody, welcome to Tears Over Beers.
It's your favorite tier list show that you've never watched before,
It's your
but you're gonna
favorite
love it.
tier list show to hate, judging from our comedian list. I, I want to just point out we're not super serious about any of our rankings. These are just for fun. Obviously, people aren't going to agree, but we're not serious. Like, we're pretty loose about this whole thing. So
These are
So
just all
it's
opinions.
just we're not even like concrete on our opinions because they're just like, it's whatever we feel at the moment.
So let's just fucking go then.
Let's go. Joy-Cons.
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 They're a good idea.
They're functional.
Functional.
They have
sometimes.
Yeah, I'll get to that. They have all the modern features I guess you could ask for. They're useful as a multiplayer console because there's a lot of games where you can just unhook it and you automatically have two players.
Yeah, but
They also break a lot.
Yeah, there's that, but also even when they're not breaking,
Yeah.
like when you take them off and you give one side to one player and one side to another player, they're not great.
No, they're
especially the right one, where the analog stick. Yeah, the analog stick is like right next to. I guess they're both like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just on the other side.
Yeah, you're right. I guess both of them kind of suck, really, because you're really like. I have small hands, and they still find it like it's uncomfortable to use them.
I think they're decent. They're not the worst thing. They're much better used in conjunction, like plugged into the into the holder as one controller, than they are separate. But it does have a use where you can split it up if you have a lot of people playing.
You can do it. It's just not the most comfortable controller.
Nobody's going to be clamoring to use that one. In fact, I think in some Mario Kart tournaments we've had where some people have been like, oh, I have to use the fucking single Joy-Con? I don't want to do that.
So, I don't know. It's definitely not S.
No, I'm thinking like a B.
Yeah. It's a really cool idea.
And I think maybe it could be an A, but the fact that they all break down.
Yeah, I think B is probably
I've said this on previous videos, but my left Joy-Con has broke twice. The same Joy-Con. I sent it for repair, Nintendo fixed it, and maybe a year later it broke again.
They probably just like pissed on it and sent it back to you and like, here you go, it's all fixed.
Oh no, it definitely worked again, but but they're just
the piss cured it for a little bit.
Oh, it's the piss. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a healing piss.
It's the piss.
Yes, as you can see, we have very serious,
very serious
reviews here. So, what did we decide this next one was?
This is the 360 controller.
Okay.
So Xbox 360 controller.
It's good.
Very beloved controller, honestly. A lot of people favor this. You can use it on the PC. Unfortunately, you got to use an adapter.
But yeah.
I'd probably give it an S.
An S, really?
I mean, is it the greatest controller? To me, personally, I don't use it all the time, but I've certainly used it on the PC a lot.
We give it an S.
The only thing I would say against that, if you want to drop it down to an A, is the D-pad is not very good. When you're playing retro games, it's not the best.
All right. Well,
but what's your grade?
We can throw an S for now. And looking at what else is out there, we can do an S, yeah.
Okay. The Duke.
D. It sucks.
D for Duke.
I think when the Xbox first came out, I think I kind of hated it because of this terrible controller.
Oh, it was awful.
And then the next we'll get to that, but the next controller came out, and I ended up getting an Xbox because I could,
you could play it.
Yeah. So it was a terrible, terrible controller unless you had giant hands, and then it probably still sucked, I would imagine. But if you have giant hands and you liked it, comment in the comment section.
All you giants out there.
Yeah.
The SNES, the The SNES.
It's an S.
The Super Nintendo.
That's an S.
Like the epitome of controllers to me growing up. I give this the top of the top.
Yeah,
I mean, everything's based off of this.
right.
First controller to have shoulder buttons, 4 face buttons. Xbox copied it. PlayStation copied it. This was the model for forever. So
Yeah. That's fair.
yep. I mean, you play it today. The D-pad versus using an analog stick. You know, is it as comfortable? Maybe not. But
Oh, yeah.
But fuck, we built up calluses and shit playing all that when we were kids. So yeah.
PlayStation, what did we say? 4.
PS4 DualShock. Pretty damn good controller.
I don't have a whole lot of experience with it, but
I would say I'd probably give it an A.
okay.
I think it's better than the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
I'm sure once we get into the nuance of the different PlayStation controllers, we might revisit that. But that's what I'm thinking. I do really like the PS4. You can say that the controller hasn't really changed all that much from generation to generation, but it did add this
Yeah, they put
this
that weird
big
little pad thing
button
that
here.
I still don't know what it does, but
Yeah, it depends on the game.
okay.
Has functionality in some games.
Sure. I'll believe you.
All right, the Saturn controller I don't really have experience with.
I wish it was the original shitty Saturn controller that looked like a fucking wheel.
I have not seen this, but I'm gonna have to look it up. You've mentioned it before. This is the one that I know of. That's the 6-button
Oh yeah.
controller, and a lot of people really like this controller. More fighting game fans than anything, I'd say, but I would probably give it a B just based on the next one.
Sure. Okay.
The Sega Controller.
Ugh.
And now...
Ugh. 3 buttons, and they're on a fucking row, so you can only hit one at a goddamn time.
I mean, there's ways to hit multiple buttons, but it's not going to be with your thumb.
Yeah.
It's not going to be with your thumb. And also, again, remember, in a similar fashion, Sega was big on arcade games, specifically fighting games.
Right.
And so when they wanted to make a controller more functional than their Master System controller, which didn't even let you pause from the controller. But at the time, the popular controller was the NES controller, which only had 2 buttons. So they're like, let's have 3 buttons.
But at least with the NES controller, like even though they're next to each other,
yeah,
you can still move your thumb to the side and you can hit both buttons at the same time. Which you can on this one, but they've angled them from bottom left to top right. So now in order to hit both buttons, 2 buttons at the same time.
But most games won't require you to hit 2 buttons at the same time.
Platformers do to like run and jump. Like Sonic probably did, right?
I mean, he just went fast.
Well, but
so you didn't actually have to hold a button. Like, okay, let's take that for example. If you're talking about like Mario versus Sonic or something.
Yeah.
So in Mario, you have to hold a button to dash,
right?
Basically, with Sonic, you don't.
Oh, okay.
The more you push forward, the faster he goes.
All right.
It's that blast processing, bruh. So I get your point, but most of the games were designed around that controller without needing you to push multiple buttons.
What are you thinking? I don't think it's an A, personally.
No, I don't think it's an A. I actually would say it's below the Saturn.
All right.
And this is to say, too,
it's the same design, except it has less buttons.
This is the original design, and they did make a 6-button controller for the Genesis, which is what the Saturn's based off of.
Yeah. And
that controller was superior to this one. But, again, most games only let you use 3 buttons. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're good controllers. They're not bad, but they're not wonderful.
All right.
Oh, the gamepad.
All right. Well, we got the Wii U fanboy supreme came here. He's gonna throw that into the top S tier.
I am not. All right. So, if you're talking about
oh, here we go.
How
here we go.
If you're talking about how useful it is for the Wii U as with the screen built in, as like the comparing it to the DS, like the bottom screen. This portion is great. Being able to use this in games to display, say, your pause screen, your item screen, your map screen, things like that. Like Wind Waker, for example, it's revolutionary for that because you can select your menu while you're playing.
Do you think it's comfortable to hold?
That's what we're gonna get to.
Okay.
As a controller, I hate it.
Yeah, okay.
As a physical controller, I don't like using it. And it's not on this controller list, but the Wii U Pro controller is an excellent controller, which the Switch controller is based off of, especially if you're playing like retro games. It's got a great D-pad. It's got your standard like Snes buttons.
I think it would have been better if they swapped the buttons and the right analog sticks position.
And one thing that people maybe don't love is it's before some modern controllers, so it's more like these PlayStation controllers. The analog sticks are the same level, but they're up higher. So it's kind of different if you didn't use it to begin with. Maybe it's got a learning curve to it. But it is a controller that a lot of people like, and it's way better than this.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think? I give this a C.
Okay.
And mind you, this is coming from someone who really likes the Wii U. But before I got a Pro controller, I was like, this controller is kind of garbage.
Yeah.
I do, even with using the Pro controller, I still use it for the screen though, because the screen part is awesome. It's just the actual controller part is not comfortable to me.
I think maybe should we skip ahead to the original PlayStation controller before we do the DualShock?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I think that makes more sense.
So the original PlayStation controller basically is a Super Nintendo controller.
Although, the quote unquote it's D-pad.
Yeah.
Being that it's not connected, I think
it's a little funkier.
Yeah, because I've tried
and they probably couldn't do the exact same because it would have been like a patent or copyright or something.
Perhaps, and I guess PlayStation controllers are still like that, aren't they? They still don't have a connected D-pad.
They are, but it's not as necessary now.
Well, you're right, probably like for modern games, but I'll just say I'm just gonna say on the Switch, which if you're using the Joy-Cons,
mm-hmm.
it's a similar situation where you've got, the D-pad, quote unquote, is actually 4 buttons, and trying to play games, like overhead games, where you want to be able to like go and like quickly move directions is a fucking nightmare.
And
so,
I'll cite this again when I'm talking about having a good D-pad for retro games specifically. That's one of the reasons I like the Wii U controller and the Switch controller. When we get to that, it has a really good D-pad, mm-hmm. which can be really useful if you play a lot of older games.
Yeah.
So I think I would probably rank it here.
Really? I would put it down in B personally, just because I think the D-pad is really detrimental.
You think so?
But maybe not so much for the games, I guess.
For the games coming out at the time,
there's no
you didn't need to use an.
I guess, but there's no analog. But where are we gonna rank the DualShock though? So I mean,
so you think this should probably be like here, maybe?
I would compromise for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Because it's essentially this controller.
It is.
So,
But it made more sense. The Super Nintendo controller made more sense for the games at the time, I think.
Yeah. I would go with that.
There's a reason that the next controller came out.
Yes. In this, I'm going to put here. Unless you have anything to say about it.
I think that's completely fair.
So this took everything about this and put it up to 11. Yeah. So you got your basic controller, and now it has dual analogs for the first time ever.
Yeah, because I think I never had a PlayStation, but a friend of mine did. And when he just had the regular original controller, and I had an N64 that had an analog, and I'm going to play with his PlayStation that everyone's talking up, and I'm like, what is this? There's no analog stick. This is terrible, because I'm like.
Well, remember too that the PlayStation came out like 2 years before the N64.
I know, but once you have an analog stick and then you're expected to go back to not having one.
Yeah.
It was like...
I guess it was a little different for me because I had an N64 and a PlayStation, and I had been used to playing the PlayStation.
Yeah.
So it never bothered me that much.
But
I never had this controller.
Okay, because I'm almost certain that my friend...
I think my brother did.
Yeah.
So I got to experience it, but I always had this one for the PS1.
Okay. Because I think that the friend I played with, he got the DualShock later, and I was like, okay, now we're talking. I can get on board with this.
Switch Pro controller. I really like the Switch Pro controller. I think it's one of my favorite controllers I've ever used.
Yeah.
I would like to put it here.
I'm good with that.
I find it more comfortable than the 360 controller. Some people might not like that idea, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Other than
and also the battery lasts for a long time.
Yeah, other than this is probably going to come out before our Zelda video where we tried to use it, and we well, you'll see if you're watching our videos.
See. We have some problems, it's a flaw versus the Wii U that the home button is right next to the plus button, and this does happen while playing Switch games to a lot of people, that you accidentally hit the home button instead of the plus button.
Yeah,
but it's not usually as detrimental when you're playing Switch.
They probably should have moved those a little further out, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so PlayStation, is that the...
That's the PS2 DualShock.
Wait,
right?
Yes. Okay, yeah.
Yep. PS2 DualShock, I drink it here. Kind of this turning into a DualShock category, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, but I didn't love the PS2 controller.
Really, a lot of people really love this controller. In fact, and I'm gonna say we haven't got to the PS3 controller yet, but the original PS3 controller wasn't the best one. They redesigned it a little later. When the first one came out, the PS2 controller was considered better because it actually had less functionality, and this whole reason they said they removed it because they were designing a better controller. It was going to be better for everybody, blah, blah, blah. We didn't need those extra functions. So it didn't have rumble, for one.
Okay.
There was a couple things missing. And then later on, they released a new DualShock 3 controller, which is what most people have now.
I'm sure that's what I used, yeah.
Yeah, and that is better. But people think it may have been like a licensing technology kind of thing, that they couldn't include it at the time when they launched the console, and they just made up some BS about it.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, people really loved their DualShock 2s, and when the PS3 first launched, they were like, this controller sucks.
Okay, when we get to the PS3, I'll get to my only gripe with that, but let's go to the GameCube.
GameCube, I think, is a good controller.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it's an A.
The stock controller, I give it an A. Where do you give it with the PlayStation controllers? Or do you care?
I think it's above the PlayStation 1 DualShock at least, right?
Yeah, I'd go with that.
All right.
Not on here, but the Wavebird GameCube controller.
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
That's like an S.
The only problem with those, though, they didn't have the rumble feature built in. So for certain games, it was a problem. But
I don't even remember that, but yeah, I guess it didn't.
But I still usually I think I had 4 of them actually.
I had 2 of them, and I don't have them anymore, and it's kind of sad.
I still got them, Cam, if you want to ever borrow one.
Well, we might, if we get an adapter, we might want to use that if we play GameCube games. Yeah. So, yeah, we might want to do that.
The NE fucking S.
All right, so we ranking this on
enough in this video.
Are we ranking this on when it came out, or are we ranking it on now?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay, so when this came out, this would have been here.
Yeah.
Before that, it was
I think, but combine
it was like Atari joysticks.
Yeah.
Or keyboards. When you're talking about now, this thing is not comfortable for long-term use.
No.
It's kind of hard on your hands. So,
but honestly, I'd still.
But the simplicity of it, the layout is good.
I'd put it, and I'm willing to compromise.
Okay.
I'd put it in the B somewhere, like between.
Like here.
That's actually exactly what I was thinking.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Okay, yeah.
And
if we're combining
again,
both,
if you're talking about when it came out, it's the granddaddy of everything in this list.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about now, yeah, and I think comfort and functionality, honestly, I don't know. The Sega Saturn controller might be more comfortable, but functionally, this worked.
Yeah. Let's save it for last.
Save it for last. We're not gonna agree on it, so save it for last. Dreamcast.
I don't have a lot of experience with it.
I don't have a lot. What I did, I liked it. You can see that they tried to do a little of what everybody was doing. So you got your 4 face buttons. That's first for Sega. You got a decent D-pad, and you've got an analog stick.
Yeah, and I think
you've also got, forerunner to stuff like the Wii U. You've got a little screen here.
Yeah, it was a little like a what do you call it? A little module you put.
Yeah, you plug your memory card in here.
Yeah.
And if it had save data from certain games, you could play a little game on here.
Yeah, and as much as it looks like a monstrosity, like the original Xbox controller or the original Saturn controller, I do remember playing it in fucking Electronics Boutique.
Mm-hmm. And that's a throwback.
Yeah, and I remember it being surprisingly comfortable for what it was.
It's pretty comfortable. It looks weird, but it's more comfortable than our controller that we're going to contest here.
So I don't know, maybe like a low B, or
I think I'd put it here.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's probably the best of the Sega controllers.
Yeah.
All right. Wiimote and Nunchuck.
It's
love and hate relationship.
It's such a weird fucking. It even if you love it, I actually like it, but it's so weird.
It works out well for the games designed around it for motion controls. First party things like Wii Sports, perfect.
Yeah.
Certain other games, it works. I mean, you've got your, even something I didn't even think about before, just thinking about it right now. If you're left-handed, all of these controllers kind of suck to you because you have to adapt.
Yeah.
If you're left-handed with the Wii, just switch hands.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone, the versatility makes it easier for people to use. This was created, they wanted to take a step back and go back to basically the simplicity of the NES controller, make it accessible to as many people as possible, and not confusing. But it still had enough buttons for functionality.
Yeah.
And it's not uncomfortable to use, but
Yeah.
it's also not the greatest.
I'm thinking somewhere. I think it's a B. Personally, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say that.
You want to slide it, and honestly, like I was originally thinking like kind of like mid, but I almost kind of now I'm looking at like, oh, we got the Joy-Cons there.
I think it's here.
You think the Joy-Cons are better?
I think the Joy-Cons are kind of like an updated version.
Yeah. They're less fucking weird too.
And
it's such a weird
and also
control.
having this is cool, but having this as a wired module, like it made sense at the time because you could plug so many different modules into the Wiimote.
Yeah.
But using it now, it's like, oh, I gotta have.
Yeah.
Just for example, the Wii Classic controller, which is like the progenitor to the Wii U Pro controller. You use it and you're not using the Wiimote when you're using it. The Wiimote's still dangling off of it because it's connected by that
Yeah, no, I'm
wire.
down with that.
So,
all right, so let's go
yeah.
to the PlayStation 3 controller. I fucking love this controller.
This is a great controller that a lot of people love. I want to put it here, or do you want to put it in S? Actually,
I think
about it.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking probably just below the 360.
My only gripe with it is, and again, I've talked about this in other videos.
Yep.
I don't know if it's my hand size or what. If I play, or if just because maybe I get intense when I fucking play games or something. This particular controller, if I play it for a long time, my hands fucking cramp the fuck up.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's something about how the bottoms kind of reach out. Like, they feel comfortable when I first start playing.
I don't think I've had that happen since, like, the Super Nintendo controller.
I honestly think
I could probably see that. And I think that compared to the 360 controller, which is also why I'm putting it below that, I think that design is slightly less comfortable.
Yeah, it's really weird because, like, like I said, I first started playing it, it feels really comfortable. And then just, like, I'm playing for, like, 2 hours or something, like, I think I probably just, like, start gripping it really hard. And
I think this is it's a really strong controller. A lot of people love it. I think it's more loved than the DualShock 4, although the DualShock 4 isn't bad by any means.
All right, let's do it. And now we got the updated original
the
Xbox
updated
controller,
original controller way better than this one.
I fucking love this controller.
What are you thinking? Like a B level?
I think it's an A personally.
You think it's an A?
I'd drop if you're thinking B. I'd be willing. I'd compromise and put it at the bottom of the A's. But
I think it's a B.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it was.
I didn't love it. I didn't find it like. For example, when the 360 controller came out, I thought it destroyed this controller. I thought it was incredibly massive improvement. I found this is the original controller I hated.
Oh yeah.
I found this playable. I didn't find it totally uncomfortable or anything, but I think I wanted to give it like a high B. So you want to give it like a.
Well, if I'm thinking, we could give it the highest B. We can compromise on
the highest B.
Sure.
Okay.
It's
kind of akin to the PS1 controller to me. Like, that's probably what I would say. So I think that's fitting to me.
Okay, I'd go higher, but we'll compromise. That's part of doing a
it's part of the tears over beers.
You've compromised on plenty of my choices, so I can. Compromise
the original Xbox ranking. It's a compromise for sure. All right, and then this is I think the Xbone Series X controller.
I haven't used it, so I don't really know, but
I have a Series X controller actually right next to me.
I have used it.
Hold it if you want. It's got some heft to it.
Yeah.
This is It's actually like a third party, but it's licensed.
Oh, I did something.
Oh, you did. How'd you do
I
that?
don't know. Magic,
This
I guess.
is.
No, you did it.
I must have. It's not even. The controller's not connected, so it could have been that. Yeah, it's. I think it's a supremely comfortable controller. I could see like, particularly the model I have. It has some weight to it that might put some people off, but I haven't used the base controller, which is this, and I think that it's considered not as good. This has excellent, like, perfect thumbsticks, which you can swap out, and a perfect D-pad, and I don't think the base controller has quite as nice.
So what do you think? Like a B?
I'm thinking probably here.
Okay.
My personal experience, this controller I would probably say an S, but given the base controller, which this is supposed to represent, I believe, it's probably lower.
Okay.
And when I've played a regular Xbox One controller, I don't think it's as good as the 360. So that's my opinion on that.
Well,
now
that we thought this video was going to be like 15 minutes.
I guess we had a lot to say.
Somehow we've gone over a half hour. So
yeah.
I'll just say before we do any debate that where I would personally put it, before we start arguing,
You want to put it up here?
No, I would put it between the. I would put it just above the original PlayStation controller and the B. Because I
think about this for a second. Because I don't think I would rank it above the. Yeah.
All right, fine. I want an S.
I think I would put it probably here, below the Wiimote.
Well, then I think we should move the original PlayStation controller down, because I don't know.
One?
No, the one down below.
This one?
Because I don't know how that's better than the N64 controller. It doesn't have analog stick.
But it didn't need it at the time. I mean, imagine, like, I'm putting this above the NES controller, but playing the NES with an analog stick at the time would have...
All right, here's what we'll do.
Okay.
Here's what we'll do for a compromise.
Okay.
I will allow you to put the N64 controller there. I'll even allow you to put the original PlayStation controller above it. If you move it down below the Wii or the Wiimote.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Compromise.
Yes. because this controller's weird as fuck.
Okay.
It's fine to use. It's functional. It introduced the analog stick.
The Z button.
The Z button is kind of cool to use,
which was essentially became like they added on additional shoulder buttons on the controllers.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, they figured out that worked better than a back button.
Yeah. But it was the predecessor.
So it's kind of like a prototype. Like this built so many things that are useful today.
Yeah. They did fail. But
it was awkward. The N64, I would say it did better than the GameCube, but it's not. It didn't do stellar.
Right. And my biggest gripe with it is that the analog sticks failed after you used them for like a couple years. That was the biggest problem.
And the big thing now with like having these camera buttons was pretty crazy at the time. It was a great idea, but having a second analog to use the camera is far superior.
Oh, yeah,
to the point that we're even doing that with our Ocarina of Time playthrough. But
the original PlayStation controller doesn't even have any fucking thing for the camera. So
yes, but this came out 2 years before this, and this came out in response to this.
I guess.
Newer games are coming out utilizing this stuff. The other thing I want to bring up before we close this video out is that Nintendo was sued over this controller because people playing Mario Party actually caused like skin irritation or damage to their hands
Yeah,
in playing the mini games and using that analog stick on like the palm of their hands.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the palm.
And
well, they're stupid kids.
and
Fuck them.
And they were like, we were those stupid kids.
Well,
we were that age.
No,
they were like, we'll send you guys gloves. That was their solution.
Well, yeah.
And then all the analog sticks broke.
Well,
some things never changed, Nintendo.
No.
Please sponsor us. We're doing talking shit about your analog
sponsor me.
breaking.
Came as an alligator talking about Nintendo, but I love you, Nintendo. I'm a fanboy. Sponsor me.
So we're gonna change this to D for Duke.
Yeah, the only one that landed in D.
And C for name that made no sense for the Wii U.
Wait, but there's no C in. But it doesn't matter.
Right.
So that also makes no sense. So it makes sense. There we go.
Yes, exactly.
A good list. I like this.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on our next tier list.
We argued. We had fun.
I hope you...
We laughed. We cried.
I hope you had a good time. Let us know if you agree or disagree. Hopefully politely. Or not politely if you don't want to. Yeah. Remember, again, this ain't serious.
Yeah, tell us
we're having fun, and maybe you learned something, or maybe you think we're a bunch of shitheads.
Tell us to go fuck ourselves.
Tell us that too, sure.
It'll only help grow our channel, so fuck you. Let's go.
Okay, bye-bye.